'Cause you make me feel awkward, woman.
And your host, Rufus Bill, and we'd like to welcome you to this edition of this show. We have a great show planned for you, and we have our lovely Joanne Toaston Fuller. Good afternoon, Joanne.
Hello, Rufus. How are
And
you?
I'm great. And Mr. Justin Hurd, what's going on?
What's going on, man? What's
Looking
going
like
on?
Shaft and your black. Giving it to us on the Sunday afternoon.
Hey, man. Glad to be here. Glad to be a part of it. Did you know that me and Joanne got to meet in person yesterday?
Oh, get out of
Yeah.
here! At the
concert.
The concert.
Man,
It was
I
awesome.
forgot all about that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yep. So that was cool. Yep, we got to meet, and it was a awesome concert. This young lady, she actually sings on my praise and worship team. Her name is T. Marie, and she has been writing music for a long time, and she put out a new single. They had Chandler Park Gospel Choir there, man. Them they sung, them kids sung, man.
Yes, they did.
And it was a host of different people that were there as well. A young lady that Joanne knows. She called. She said, "Yeah, I put two and two together when I ended up running into her, and we had a conversation. And I was like, oh, she said something about her church, and I was like, do you know Joanne? And she was like, yeah, Auntie Joanne. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah. So the person that you were there supporting, I actually got to meet her.
And you know what? And I know I've known Taylor since she was like 3 or 4 years old. That's a shame.
Wow.
I
Wow,
feel so
that's
bad.
crazy.
I've known, and even the Bailey girl that played the guitar. I've known
Yeah,
her
she
since
told
she was
she.
a little
Yep.
girl. So I
Yeah.
knew quite a few of the folks that were on the program.
Wow. So forgive my, I don't want to say ignorance, but my lack of knowing. But I've never been to a Seventh-day Adventist church. Never. Never in my life. Never been to a service or anything like that. So like I didn't know like the vibe or the flow of, just how they do church or whatever. Yeah, I was like really taken away. I mean, like it's literally is no different from, what Christians do or how we praise God or how we sing, even the
Amen.
song, even down to the hymns and different things like that. And I was like, oh yeah, we all go to 7 days. And I was like, wow, like I don't know what I thought that may look like or what that was. I don't know, but I was like, wow, they just okay, cool. That's what's up. So that was an aha moment for me because and then people, I think, Rufus, you might be the only person that I knew, other than Joanne now, that came out of a 7-day Adventist church. Just never met nobody, never had those conversations, and so I was surprised.
Wow.
Lord,
Yeah.
if I was the only one, I hope I didn't do it. I didn't shame them. They like Rufus. So where was
y'all just Christians serving God, trying to make it to the kingdom?
Trying to make
That's
it.
The bottom line.
Really? So where was the event?
It was at my church, Conqueror's Church, in Roseville. Yep, that's where it was. It was packed out. It was a packed house.
Really?
Yeah, it was a packed house, and everybody was good, yo. Like everybody was good. It was this young man there. His name was Preach, I think. He was like a Christian, artist, rapper, whatever. I mean, phenomenal, man, phenomenal. Like everything was dope. The young lady, I'm not sure. What's the young lady that played the guitar at the end?
Bailey is her last name.
Bailey. And Jordan is the other girl's name, right?
Jordan, right?
Okay.
Jordan Taylor.
Yeah, Bailey, man. I was like, did you record that? She was like, yeah. I was like, yo, you need to record that. Like,
Yes.
SAP, and the song was talking about if nobody ever told you. So she was going through all these things like if nobody ever told you were beautiful, if you were pretty, if you were this. I mean, she's just going on this laundry
Thank
list,
you.
and then she goes on to say like God cares and God loves you, but it's in the most artistic, simple, like the
Authentic.
authentic,
Yes.
and the simplicity of it just makes it like wow, like
Really?
yeah.
It
If you go
was
on my
awesome.
Facebook story, Justin Hearn, on Facebook, you probably got a little bit more time before it times out. But I actually caught some of the event. So if you click my story, you'll find
Okay.
some highlights from the night.
Okay. Now, did you perform or do anything, Justin?
No, Taylor is she asked for the pastors to come up. So myself, our lead pastor, Pastor Sam, and his wife, we came up and we gave her. She wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to tell everybody, hey, this is Conqueror's Church, and you're welcome here to come back here or whatever. So that
Yeah.
was all that I did.
Okay. Now, Joanne, how did you know the artist?
Well, Taylor I've known since she was a little girl.
Okay.
And it didn't hit me because I didn't have a flyer, so I didn't see the picture. People were just telling me, Taylor, and I guess they were telling me because they knew I knew her.
Knew her. Okay.
But I didn't know. It's like the name just went. They were just saying Taylor, and then somebody else said T. Marie, and I'm like, I don't know T. Marie. I'm going to support. And then when I found out Jordan was going to be there, and that's my baby girl,
Okay.
Jordan Taylor, Dolores and Russell Taylor.
Oh yeah.
And Russell Jr. That's Russell Jr.'s daughter.
Really?
Yes. And
okay.
So, and then get there, and then there's so many people. Then the Baileys go to Conant.
Okay.
That you were talking about with the guitar. So it was so many people there that I knew. It was like that was on the program. Even some of the background singers I know. So it's like, oh my goodness, okay. But I felt so bad because Taylor's dad
too.
sitting. I sat with her family.
Okay.
And it was like, and I told him, I said, he said, you ought to be ashamed. But when you don't talk to people and you don't see them on a regular basis,
yeah,
it's like. But I'm telling you, it was awesome. It was all the performers were just great.
Yeah, I told Jordan and Bailey they're gonna be getting a phone call from me.
Okay.
I gotta get them back to the church for sure.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
cool. Now, Justin, when I was I grew up at Burns Avenue Seventh-day Adventist Church. So
is that the one that's on Warren and Cadillac?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
And it used to be on Burns Street. That's when I was remember before it moved to that. Before they built that church. Okay. And so the Adventist environment was slightly different then than it is now. It was more what would you say, Joanne?
Reserved.
It was more reserved. That was perfect because I was about to say the wrong word. It was more reserved. And we only had one gospel choir at the time. That was the Angelics. And so they were edgy, but that was as edgy as we had at the time. But they used to rock it. I think they did the second Sabbaths. And that was one of my favorite Sabbaths to be there. Because you knew that they were going to be rocking in the choir stand. They didn't do any of that at that time. In fact, Derek and the Angelics were very groundbreaking for Burns. Some of the older members, they weren't really all too excited, but they went along with the flow because it was a young group, and most of them had just got out of college, so they were young adults. And I think the popular song at the time was like Tremaine
and "Oh Happy Day." That was the era of Hawkins, Andre Crouch.
Yes,
those were the groups back then. Hawkins Singers and Andre Crouch was like,
wow.
That was it.
That's phenomenal.
It is.
Yeah, I think I would have thought that, I don't know, I would have thought they went to a Pentecostal church, or I wouldn't have, because I didn't have any note because I've never been to a service, and I've never had close other than you, and we've never really talked about what happened or what was the temperature like at Seventh-day Adventist Church. So yeah, that was very very eye opening for me. Yeah, for sure
it was. So what you guys think about the verdict this week? And the trial was a Kyle Rittenhouse.
Kyle Rittenhouse. Mm-hmm. I think, and I'll take. I guess I'll take the lead on this. So, am I disgusted about what happened? Yes, I'm disgusted about what happened. It doesn't sit right with me. But what we have to understand as people of color and people in general is that the court of law is not a moral court.
That's right.
We're not speaking from what somebody should do, or what a reasonable person would do. We're going by what the law says. Mm-hmm. Okay. And according to see, this is the thing. His everything that he did that led up to the incident was morally wrong, right? He shouldn't have been there. It was a illegal assembly. He shouldn't have had the firearm. Mm-hmm. All of that aided into what he did. But when I look at the law and I don't put my race into it, I don't put anything that got to do with this country into it, and I look at it as facts, he acted in self-defense. Mm-hmm. You know,
and this is according to the law.
And according to the law, to the law, he acted in self-defense. And when you even hear testimonies from those survivors that survived what is, it's clear that he acted in self-defense. And where the issue comes in at is, okay, why were you there? Okay, why did you have a gun? You know what I mean? Like, why do you need that at a protest? But at the end of the day, that has nothing to do ultimately with what happened. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. It shouldn't have happened. But however, it's not a moral court. You know what I mean? This is law, and I think that from the law, I think that he should have been. He acted in self-defense. That doesn't make it right.
Right, Joanne. What did you think about the verdict and the whole situation?
Well, I thought it was crazy.
Okay.
I thought it was. I was surprised that he got off on all charges because, first of all, you're underage. Mm-hmm. You're carrying an automatic rifle. You traveled from another state. So what was your reasoning for going there, first of all? Mm-hmm. You know, so, and I understand what you're saying about the moral law and the constitutional law. I do understand that. Mm-hmm. But to me, those three things just right there gave me where your head was. Right. Then the first person he shot, self-defense. Because they just said something to him and he thought that was self-defense. Now the last two, because we saw them chasing him. Mm-hmm. So I kind of understand that was self-defense. But wasn't it illegal at 17 to have a rifle? Then you traveled across lines. You traveled across mm-hmm. state lines with that illegal. And so I think my thing is, I understand constitutional law. I understand mm-hmm. But my thing is that he still ended up killing some people that he needs to be held accountable for. And you know what? And the bottom line is he can't be retried. But I believe, and I'm not putting anything out there on him, but I believe that his life is never going to be settled because of this. He's never going to have it easy because of this. Because at some point he's going to have to realize, I took out two people, mm-hmm. and I almost took out a third. Right. And so he's not going to have peace.
And especially by him. It's
not going to be the same. Of course, it's not going to be the same after this, but he's not going to have peace. He's not free like he think he is now. It's going to hit him that you can't go anywhere almost now. So, no, he's not really a free man now.
Right.
And then, too, you know, by him of his age, he's a child. And he's still thinking as a child, and he's going to be affected by his actions. Firstly, as a child, and then as he matures and his brain completely develops by the age of 25, then he's going to have a whole different dynamic on the course of action. He'll be able to go back into his head and say, "What was I? You know, why was I there?" And as you said, Joanne, you know, he will be riddled with this for the rest of his life.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, so this is the week of the holiday. Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
Justin, have you started your cornbread stuffing?
You know what? No, I am not. I am not a cooker. I cook
Okay.
in spurts. I have seasons where I'm inspired to cook, and my wife will tell you I'll go buy crock pots, I'll go buy instant pots, and I'll cook, and that'll last for a week, 2 weeks, and then it's sitting over and somewhere collecting dust. So no. So uniquely last year, this year we do something different. My whole family is gathering, so we're doing a whole family thing. But in the prior 2 years, we kind of took the pressure off of my wife, my mom, and you said, you know what, I know a really good caterer. We got our Thanksgiving Day food catered, and family came over and we eat, and nobody had to cook anything, you know.
That's
So that was
perfect.
kind of how we did it this year. Everybody's cooking or responsible for something. But so no cooking for me or in my house.
Joanne, you have any catering jobs for the
I
week?
do, I do, I do. I didn't advertise this year, but
Oh,
you know, so some of my old clients are, yeah. So I do have some orders. I do.
What's the most popular thing people want?
Food. Look, I fried turkeys, smoked turkeys, dressing, macaroni and cheese, sweet
uh,
potatoes. What you
I
want?
wish I
I
would
mean,
have known you fried turkeys. That's actually what I was looking for. Because that's what they asked me to bring, a fried turkey, and I was like, well, I ain't frying no turkey, but I'm gonna find somebody that do. So now I know for next year, I know Joanne fries
now
turkey.
you know for Christmas.
Oh,
all
you
right,
right about
Rufus.
that,
I'm gonna put her to work, Ricky.
right?
Like I'm not, like I don't work hard enough. What you talking about? I'm gonna have you over here.
I will
my,
chop.
you gonna be my sous, my sous chef.
That's
No.
Well, I'm
hilarious.
going to be collecting plates starting Wednesday. So I'm going to hit, you know how some people say, I'm going to start my dinner Wednesday. I said, oh, what time?
have your carry out prepared.
Yeah,
Yes.
Wednesday you gonna start collecting plates. I was talking to a gentleman today. We had a meeting right after church, and they said, Minister Son, so you not eating? He was like, Nah, I'm taking it easy because when it comes Thursday, he said I'm eating everything. So he like I'm saving my stomach. I'm like, wow, wow.
That is too funny. Well, we got a great show today. And Joanne, if you lead us into that.
Oh yes. We have a guest, the wife of our own Justin. Yes. Woo, woo, woo. That's right. Yes, and help me make sure I want to be correct. So it's
Okay.
Lakithia.
Yes, that's
All
correct.
right.
Yeah, you got it right.
A bullseye.
Yes, Lakithia
Bullseye.
Hearn is here, and we're going to talk about if how the millennial women of today feel about uh, life, about family, working and being a wife, a mother, what else? An entrepreneur, or
And
just
balancing it
all
all.
around
Right.
woman of this 21st century. So we're gonna invite her in and just kind of talk to her and get her viewpoint on. Hello, hello,
Hello,
hello.
Lakeitha.
Hi,
Heard.
so good to meet you.
You are as well. I've been enjoying the backstage presentation of such fire. You guys' voices, your spirits are coming through. I love it.
Awesome,
Great.
awesome.
And we're
Yes,
so glad that
yes.
you're here with us today.
Yes, I'm happy to be here. Happy I was able to make arrangements with the kiddos to accept the invitation.
That's
Yes,
good. That's good.
yes.
So for those who may not know, the millennials are between 1980 and 1995. Now, this has been a demographic of individuals that have really taken the world by storm since the baby boomers, because we heard a lot about baby boomers and everything that the baby boomers did, and they wear that title proudly. But
Hmm.
when the after the baby boomers, we heard a little bit about Generation X, and then the another demographic of individuals, but millennials are like they're the cat's meow, and
Okay.
it's so interesting. And Lakeithia last week, when 2 weeks ago, Justin did a show on H HBCs, and when he was
Okay.
planning, he told me, he said, Rufus, he said, no, I said to him, I said, well, if you need a guest, I have one. And Justin said, oh no, we don't want no old people.
Ah, ah,
Can you believe he said that?
I can.
ah,
I said,
oh.
I said, I know young people. I know you. But it's interesting because millennials have carved a niche
Okay.
on what they like, what they do, how they do it, how they perceive things, their perspectives,
Okay.
and so you're a millennial woman, and you're doing a lot of things. And
Mhm.
first of all, just tell us how do you take being categorized as a millennial woman?
Well, it's interesting hearing your take. I think this is, in a long time, the first positive perspective I've heard about millennials. I think there's a lot of negatives from the previous generation in regards to how different we do things, how honest or blunt that we can be,
Mm-hmm.
or just how much change that we are embarking on versus previous generations. So it's actually really refreshing to hear the positive perspective. But my take is that we're a no holds barred generation. And as women, we
Okay.
are stepping outside of the box. So for myself, even my mother is Gen X. She's not a baby boomer. She was a young mother when she had me. So even her just being one generation above me, I think, in my perspective on things, it's so different. And there is a courage to do so, to think different,
Mm-hmm.
to take a path that many haven't taken. So, as a millennial woman, I just say that I'm going for everything that I can. I don't take any day for granted, and I'm looking to raise the mark for the generations coming after me.
All right. That is awesome. That is awesome. And I have to apologize I for the negative feelings and the negative connotations that you all feel that you've been getting so much of. I mean,
Yeah.
all each generation has got. I remember when I was coming up, we were getting them. We were getting
Mhm.
that. Oh, these young people these young
Mhm.
people of today. So I know each generation has it, but no, I think for me, millennials are that go get it.
Okay.
We're gonna do it. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's and I appreciate that because that's always been who I've been. But I was
Mhm.
always categorized as different,
Okay.
even
Right.
from my parents. Oh my, my mom would be like, "Oh my goodness, there she go again,"
Yes.
And so, and I've always been straightforward, honest, never brutally honest, but honest. And I've liked those. I like that to come back at me too. So
Okay.
what I do to you, I expect you to do to me.
Mm-hmm.
What I expect of others, I do the same. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate that. We're gonna talk. Let's talk. Let's do
Mhm.
this. Let's move forward. What you got planned? Oh, you need some help. Let's do it. And that's what I love about the millennials
Okay.
of today. So how do you feel as do you feel any type of stigma, or how do you feel like being a mother, a wife? Do you work outside of the home? So a career person. How do you feel bringing all this together?
It is an interesting journey, and a journey nonetheless, because I do feel, again, as a millennial woman, that I'm doing things different. than I've seen done. So I currently do not work outside the home. I'm graduating with my bachelor's of science this December from Wayne State.
Congratulations.
Thank
We saw that cap
you.
and gown smiling.
Yes, yes. So I'm really, really excited about that. And I'm actually able to be fully present in this moment. I've been in undergrad for 13 years now, part-time. And most of that time was because I was working while going to school. So taking one class, taking two classes, working multiple jobs. So in this season that I've been able to go to school full time and not work outside of the home, it's allowed me to be fully present in my studies, really, not drop any classes, pass all the classes, etc. And walk into this next season of being a career mom and balancing that. So it's a journey. I'm still kind of trying to figure out what does school life look like for the kids? What does the balance of home look like? What hours would be prime? What services are we going to outsource so that the home can run expeditiously? So whether that's cleaning services, whether that's getting some meal prep services, whatever it's going to take to make the dream work, I'm willing to do. And I would say that is something that I'm seeing in my generation that's different from previous generations where there was a pride and honor in cooking 3 meals a day, 7 days a week, and being able to outsource some of that gives more capacity, gives more time, gives more ability to do other things and juggle a few more balls. So on the journey to figuring out that full balance, but I'm walking into that space of balancing career and home.
Now, Lakeithia, if you're just tuning in, our special guest today is Lakeithia Hearn, and our subject today is can millennial women balance work, home, and career? And you have the opportunity of going into the chat and asking questions to our special guest, and you can also like and share this particular broadcast. Lakeithia, how important is it, or was it to you, to become educated? Formally educated with a degree as a millennial?
Very important because I have always known that I wanted to have children, have a traditional family, and be the best example that I can be for them. Though I definitely won't require my children to go to college or go to a formal institution. I just want them to be their best selves. And so I have to walk in that 100%. And so that's what I strive to do. So irregardless of how that's panning out from day to day, what that looks like is for me to determine. But I want them to see me being all that I can be, to say it in a very stereotypical way, to be all that you can be, but for them to see me studying, for them to see me dropping them off and coming home from school, like that balance, I want them to see me living that out. So important for me to take pride in the fact that I'm formally educated, but even more important for my children to see me living that out.
Sweet. Now, I feel like you said a mouthful about when you was talking about balancing home and work, and you said something about outsourcing those things. Now, from a previous generation, even though how I was raised, my mother traditionally worked, and she cooked, and she cleaned, and she did everything. You know what I mean? And so I think so from that, so I just really want you to speak to that, because there's this mindset that, like, yeah, why you letting another woman cook your husband food? Meaning that you're outsourcing the food, or or if you have somebody coming in the house and cleaning up and stuff like that, that's a person that's in the house cleaning, whatever. And so I guess what I'm asking was, how did you come up with that thought process to say, you know what, this is better? And was that more of a relief thing, like, okay, now I can do this, or more like, I don't want to do this, I'm not cooking, I'm not cleaning, like walk through that balance and figuring that out?
Yeah, I think It's a process of figuring out what works for you and your family ultimately. As a woman, as a wife, as a mother, I can look to the left and the right and see how things were done, how things are currently done in other homes, or how things were previously done in other generations, and try to mirror that, and do it horribly and do it miserably. So for me, it's about just figuring out what works. I know the type of things that my children like. I know what they like to see me do. I know my children don't know the difference in me cooking twice a week versus 5 times a week at this age. So I know that I just kind of know what I can do to keep everyone happy. And so I just kind of find that balance myself.
Now, which is very interesting. I like the philosophy of outsourcing. Now, as a child, my parents did a lot of outsourcing with me. I was the outsource.
Right,
Go
right.
clean up. but I like that particular angle because it frees you up to spend time with your husband and with your children, as well as whatever personal goals that you have of your own. You're completely taken out of that traditional mother wife duty, cooking and cleaning constantly. As
Yeah.
when you're outsourced. What do you think about that, Joanne? How
I
are you
mean,
from
you know
that?
what, and it's I think you have to know and understand what's good for you and yours.
Mhm.
I tell people what's good for 5270 might not be good for whatever your
Mhm.
address is. You know what I'm saying? And so you have to be okay with the decisions you make. And because with me, it wasn't just my mom. It was my mom and dad, but my dad cooked, my mom cooked. They taught us how to cook, so we all cooked. But then when I was coming up, we didn't have all of the fast foods, the
Right.
prepared foods, we didn't have all of that. So yes,
Mhm.
everybody cooked. We all cleaned. So it wasn't like it was the woman's job to
Mhm.
clean. Everybody cleaned. My brothers clean. I think my brothers cook better than me. So it was for us in our house, everybody pitched in. So yeah, my dad
Mhm.
was cooking, my dad was cleaning, my dad was doing a lot. My dad would do my hair because my mother couldn't do my hair. So
Wow.
it was that it for me. It was in my house. It was different. And I
Mhm.
know other people who believe that you know they're women's jobs and men's jobs
Mhm.
in the home.
Mhm.
I don't believe that. I believe that if we're all living in here working and we live here together, we all work together to
Mhm.
keep it the way we want to keep it. To keep the
Exactly.
house, to keep the clean, whatever. I might do something better than somebody. I might do
Mhm.
the laundry better than somebody, but I've had housekeepers myself. Because at one point I was busy, 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 and I only have one child. I have a son, but I was busy, busy, busy. So yep, I had a housekeeper that came in once a week. So I mean, I appreciate that you all are working together and knowing
Right.
what's good for you and yours. And to me,
Mhm.
as long as I mean, because everybody might not be able to outsource,
Mhm.
and
Absolutely.
know also that that's okay, but
Mhm.
find what's good for you and yours, for you and your home, for you and your family. And I love it.
Yeah.
It sounds like that the two of you are working together and
Exactly.
Mhm.
have an understanding together. So
Mhm.
that's what to
100%.
me really makes it a home and your family, is that as long as the two of you have it together, you're talking and you understand this is how we got to do it right now. And like you
Mhm.
said,
Mhm.
when you finish, and I'm so proud of you for going on ahead and doing that. But when you
Thank you.
finish, and things, like you said, things have probably changed down the road, because then you might want to go get a job. You might want to
Mhm.
have a career afterwards. So then that will change as your children get older.
Yeah.
Things will change as they start school, and then they are in activities with school. So that communication and just working together and understanding
Mhm.
um, your wants and needs and desires as a family and as a home, I think it's
Yeah.
wonderful.
And
Yeah.
to speak to that, that is for us an ongoing conversation. And it was a process of, again, figuring that out. As Justin stated, his mom is a baby boomer. My mom is Gen X. As Rufus said, I was the outsourced growing up. I was the oldest of my siblings. So I did the cooking, I did the cleaning, as she was a single mom working. So what we seen growing up, what was our norm, what we wanted to do different, or what we wanted to emulate from our personal homes growing up was completely different. And it's been an ongoing process of figuring out that balance, figuring out what works for us. So it's an ongoing conversation, and one that we didn't know that we had to have as newlyweds or walking into the season of being a newly married couple. But absolutely, what's going to work for your home, your makeup, your kids' ages, the hours you work. Like, there's so many things that goes into how a home is kept, how the kids are fed, bathed, the home is clean, and communication is vital.
Yes.
So being a full-time mom and being a full-time student, taking care of a house, raising kids, young kids too. In fact, when teenagers is
Mm-hmm.
different, but when you got babies, whole different story. It's just a struggle. It is. But
Yes.
I think you do a tremendous job of making sure that you're okay and making sure that
Mm.
you find time for you. So, what advice could you share for young mothers, married or not married, but just have children and thinking about like, oh, I'm just gonna quit school because I don't got time to figure out what's
Mm-hmm.
best practices of being that mother, being that nurturing figure, going to school, that what's that, and as well as making sure that you're okay and making sure that you're
Mm-hmm.
making time for you. What do you think was best practice for both of those?
First, thank you. Second, oh, I think it's just being aware of yourself and how to become self-aware. I don't really know how to explain that process. But I think even knowing how you feel, um, having your feelings validated, having um, your challenges validated. So I would say maybe through community, and maybe it could be journaling, or maybe it could be speaking with a therapist or someone who a close loved one who you can freely vent to. I think just being validated first lets you know that there is a need for a change, because we're all just figuring it out. We're all looking to our left or our right, thinking that somebody else is doing it better, thinking that you may be doing it wrong. Like, it's just all trial and error. And if you're not validated and knowing that you are actually overwhelmed, or validated and knowing that you should have a little bit of time to yourself, or you may need to outsource, you may need to bring in some more help if you don't naturally have that help, or that built-in village, as they say, then you don't know what needs to change. So first, I would say being self-aware, and then second, audaciously making it happen. So if I have to get a babysitter to go to the gym every day, I'm going to figure that out, because my health is necessary. My health is what's going to keep me here with my children and my husband. My health is what's going to allow me to run around with them from the age of 2 to 92, however long we're able to be here together. So I have to figure it out. If that's being told no for the 100th time by my mother because she doesn't want to be a babysitter, then so be it. If that's, calling all of the daycares in the community to figure out the best fit, and interviewing and, going hard to figure that out, then so be it. But audaciously seeking after what it is that I need, no matter what.
Right.
I love that.
And I love that. And
Yeah.
knowing that it's okay to do self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And I run into a lot of people, a lot of women who really do not believe that it's okay to do self-care.
Mm-hmm.
That once they
Mm-hmm.
have children, especially when they're little, that they should put all their focus into their
Yeah.
family, into their, and you know what, and I'm not saying that that's wrong, that you should put your focus, but at some point, a healthy person to me takes care of others better. So if that means you need to have time away, if that means, I remember when we first got married, my husband and I, and because I didn't live here before we got married, and so I would go back to Indiana and like for a weekend, and I got a lot of flack, surprisingly, from women. How you gonna leave your son with your husband? That's his father. Or you shouldn't. But I mean, I really caught flack, and then my husband realized that I needed that time, and so sometimes I could tell when I was starting to get on his nerves. It's like, is it time for you to go see Trisha?
Yes.
So one of the which I think this dynamic between you and Justin is very unique. So when I was probably your age, my demographic, and people were getting married, we weren't the generation that was considerate of our spouse, because it was I'm gonna do this, and the wife said, well, I'm gonna do this, and then we'll meet somewhere down the road. And the women were not practicing self-care, and they weren't doing a lot of balancing, like everything that you're doing right now. So how is it, or what was your role model, or what resource did you use to be able to be a loving wife, especially by you all being such a young couple, and not, I don't know if you all have other married couple friends in your demographic, but what was the guideline that you said, okay, I'm gonna do this to solidly build and maintain my relationship with my man?
Resources to becoming a loving wife. I think the church does a pretty good job in prioritizing marriage for women in general, and being a Proverbs 31 woman. And I'd say my upbringing in the church, and when I say upbringing, I'm really speaking from a 20-something. I wasn't brought up in the church as a child, but in my 20s, I found Christ and got a relationship with God, and got really serious about the pursuit of marriage and all of that. That's a whole other story. But in my 20s, in my upbringing in church, it was, I would say, the most important thing that was specifically taught to women. So I would say the church does a pretty good job of highlighting that as a priority. I'd say your question was being a loving wife. I'd say after the church did a pretty good job in highlighting to me the importance of marriage and being a wife that's found, and all of those things, getting married and having a reality that my husband didn't complete me. Marriage wasn't the end all be all. My husband's job wasn't to make me happy. Realizing that and walking through that and learning how to still be a loving wife and still be a happy, sustained, healthy woman in order to be that for my husband. I'd say therapy has been really vital in that process. I love information. I read books. I listen to podcasts. I'd say, just off the top of my head, Sarah Jakes Roberts is one of my mentors in my head. I listen to her podcast. I read her books. So finding women that emulated the characteristics personally and possessions in life, as far as a balanced marriage or living a holistic Christian lifestyle. Finding women like that on social media, reading their books, has helped to have those mentors. I call them mentors in my head, where I can kind of walk out some of the tools that they enlist in their program.
So before, like, did you have, you said church played a very important part, especially in your 20s. So were there like single groups in church or married groups that you hung around, or were there like counseling sessions, or, and did you get marriage counseling even before?
So I went to like women's ministry or single events here and there. I was involved in Pinky Promise. I don't know if you guys know what that is. It's a women's organization group. They have chapters in different cities, owned by Heather Lindsay. I would say that was the women's group, or quote unquote singles women group, that I was the most active in. And I'm sorry, what was the other part of your question?
So like, were there groups and stuff that helped you, especially like in the church, to get your head wrapped? Like you said, there was no manual, there's no books, there's no guideline to, you know, once you, especially when you start looking for a spouse, being a woman of God, being, and then once you get married, there's really, even parenting, there's no guideline book. So was there groups that, I know you said you had the podcast and people who are, but
as far as personal mentors, I didn't have any personal mentors, but I would say that yes, Pinky Promise was pretty active in that season as being a 20-something, kind of trying to spiral out of, you know, just getting out of high school, the habits that form, the nightlife, all the things that looks attractive when you're quote unquote grown, kind of trying to spiral out of that and find myself as a young 20-something. That organization was pretty impactful in good and bad ways. But for me at that time, it was very good with what my goals were at the time. I guess I kind of want to follow up with saying the books and finding, as a married woman, my needs or what exactly I needed was completely different than what I thought I needed as a single woman, if that makes sense. So as a single woman, you see marriage, you know, it's the fairy tale, it's the wedding, it's the big thing. And, you know, there's just a lot of romanticized, you know, things that come along with it. And at the time, Pinky Promise and Heather Lindsay, that organization and kind of what she stood for, kind of really stood behind that, kind of the Disney World, Disney happy ending type portrayal of marriage. And walking into marriage and realizing that that isn't what it was, there was a whole nother process of kind of understanding the reality and figuring out what works best for me in my marriage. So I want to say Pinky Promise because in my 20s it was very helpful, but I wouldn't recommend it to a 20-something at this point. I think just kind of working on yourself first, being whole yourself, really knowing yourself, getting a personal relationship with God, and allowing you and your future spouse, or however, whenever that season comes, for you guys to walk and grow together, have open communication. I would say that that's much more important than trying to be in a group that has a model for marriage, if that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yes, thank you.
And you know, and as Lakeithia was talking, who was our special guest today, our topic is, can millennial women balance work, home, and career? I'm thinking, as she's speaking, that she sounds more mature, age-wise, I should say. You know, because some of the things that you were saying, some women don't learn until in their 40s of how what their worth is, and especially women that are from Generation X, because I talk to a lot of them on a regular, and they were, you know, speaking of trying to find themselves and to hear your perspective early on, it can do nothing but really enhance everything that you're involved with as a mother, as a wife, as a soon to be graduate, as a student, and going into your career. I like how you talked about the resources that you had, your mind mentors, and the various organizations that at the time that you were involved in were beneficial for you, and it just gave you, it seemed like it gave you a leg up on some things that you didn't really know anything about, but did you know you wanted to obtain?
Yeah, for sure.
And it
I
sounds
think
like, and I really am so glad that you're a go-getter and letting people know that
I
when you want to
know.
know something and you want to be something, you want to do something, because there's no manual, go and find whatever it is that you are looking for.
Absolutely.
Find it.
Yeah.
If it's in a book, if it's on a podcast, if it's in a, find it, research it, take what you can use, because you like, and I think you made a hint to that there's some things that you got that you no longer need or didn't use, but okay, good information now. And so that's what I think women need to realize too nowadays, is that you have to sometimes do the work. Well, I shouldn't say sometimes. You have to do the work. You have to do the work for yourself, and like Rufus said, when we were coming up, even before us, it was a lot of when you're gonna get married, when you're gonna have family, when you're gonna have children, la da da da. It was that order. Even if you went to college, I know people now who are doctors and lawyers and psychiatrists who went to college when they got married because their real goal was to get married and have children.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just generations that now, and even now, as people are marrying later and having children later, because they realize, oh, I can make choices. I can make other decisions. I can do this, and this before, and that other person is not going to make me who I am.
Absolutely.
I have to be happy with me and happy with who I am. And that's where it sounds like you are. You realize and understand that with you, all things are possible. And that your happiness comes from God, is what it sounds like.
Absolutely.
And so now everything else is an added bonus.
It's an add-on.
I think something that's definitely unique to my wife, but I think is unique to millennials in general, is that we value perspective. When I feel like the older generation or baby boomers, whatever way that worked, that's what people stuck to. So my parents, both worked jobs for 30 years and retired. I got a job working at the post office, and at that time, I wasn't pursuing school. At that time, I had given up on school, and I just said, you know what, school is just not for me. I'm just not going to school. So I said, hey, I got to get the best job I can get to be able to provide, because I knew I had a desire to be married. I knew I had a desire to have a wife. I knew that I like to live a certain way. You know what I mean? There's things that I like to do and stuff like that. So I got up at the post office, and I was delivering mail, and it was by far one of the toughest jobs I've ever did in my life. I don't wish that on nobody. I have my nightmares sometimes that I had to go back to be a mail carrier, and it ain't been good. But shout out to anybody that's carrying mail. But it's a very tough job, very tough job. And when I told my parents that I was like leaving and wasn't doing it no more, they was like confused. Like, what do you mean you're not gonna, like? Why would you? And I was like, well, I'm doing something else. And now, with time and life happening, I'll be graduating next year, from school. And so my plan is to, leave the police department eventually. And so it's hard for my parents, who are, mid to late 60s, to process, like, well, why did you leave? Like, why did you do that? Like, what are you doing? Like, to them, it just seems like, oh, I'm busy, or it seems like I don't know what I'm doing, when all actuality is just I got to get to where I'm going by any means necessary. And once something in my life is not conducive for me to reach that goal, then something got to change. Whereas I feel like in the old generation, it was like, well, nah, I got to get that pension. I got to stick it out because I'm here. I feel like that generation were company men and company women. And I feel like now we're companies of ourselves, not from an idle perspective, but we take more ownership into our lives to say that this is what I want, and because I want it, then I'm going to go and get it, and I can do it. I'm not going to let a job or a position or a comfort of, the post office ain't never going out of business. You know what I mean? And I mean, those are real things. We get out of comfort. But with that, you know what I mean, comes extra stuff too. It ain't just all good. Those decisions, that especially in my life, that decision put a whole strain, on my marriage. Being in the police academy, my wife was pregnant. I couldn't be there how I want to. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have capacity for certain things that I would have liked to did. So that came with great sacrifice. But at the end of the day, it all comes together. It all makes sense or whatever. And so it does come with some sacrifice. It does come with some struggles, whatever. But I'm a firm believer that when it's all said and done, we can look back and say, well, it was worth it.
Yeah.
Lakeithia said, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joanne.
And I think it goes back to what Lakeithia said earlier. It sounds like it's old-fashioned word, and people throw it around and use it a lot, but it's so important. And you said the word earlier, communication. Communication that you all had between the two of you. So even though you were in the police force, in the police academy, and you said it was rough. There were things, but I'm sure you all communicated. And so the understanding came, even though it was rough, it wasn't easy, but the understanding and the patience came in because of you all's communication, knowing that you had a goal and a dream to achieve at that time.
And I just feel like in this moment, just realizing it's coming full circle. I had a government job. I could have stayed in my government job. I lost my brother. I'm just being transparent. My brother had died, whatever. I knew that graduating from college was a big deal for my wife. I know something that she wanted. I know something that she desired. And just with all of that, the plan that we laid out was, okay, well, how can we make this work for us? You know what I mean? So even in me going to DPD, whatever, and this is crazy, it's twofold. One reason was because I wanted to continue some of the work that my family, that my brother did. He worked with PAL. I instantly got involved in PAL, and I did things in PAL and stuff like that. But another reason, a huge factor of me going to DPD, was because at the post office, even though I made good money, I couldn't write my own check like I could at DPD. And so I knew that in leaving the post office and going to DPD, I could work unlimited, which would aid in my wife not having to work and being able to focus on the home and on school. You know what I mean? So it was like that decision was made. And so now it's just coming full circle because now we're at the end of these decisions. And she'll tell you, the academy was rough. I was comfortable, but it was all for a greater cause. And now she'll be finishing another 2 weeks and everything like that. And I'm so happy and excited for her. It did come down to communication, and it did even with the work-life balance perspective, we had to communicate and then accept the deficits that would come, in making decisions and whatnot, and then finding the balance in that, because a lot of people talk about balance in life, but we married, we got to balance our relationship.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We don't just get married and then everything just work out. Like, no, I got to spend time with her. She got to spend time with me. She has to cater to me in certain ways that I like to be catered to. So all of that, it comes into fruition.
It's true. It's true.
Now-
But what you did to get them, you got to do to keep them. You can't forget that. You can't, and I for me that goes both ways. But
it does.
Can't forget that. You can't forget each other. You know?
And Lakeithia said something that was very profound for. Of course, we're touching on millennial women balancing and all, but that can be applied for everybody. She said, when I went into my marriage, I didn't go in there thinking that it was Justin's job to make me whole. And it just rolled off her lips. But how many times have we probably all have known someone that has poured everything like on my husband, and I got to get married because my husband will make me, or the guy saying, I got to get with her because she the one and she gonna fulfill me, and that's ludicrous to have that philosophy only because it has to come from here. I can't ask that person to do it for me. When I entered into the workforce, I was fortunate to get a job at Blue Cross and Blue Shield, and so I was getting ready to go to Howard, but I got hired in full time, and I said, skip that college stuff. So I'm going to go work and make some money. And so after doing it, and then I would think I may have been there 10 years, and I was standing in the window and I thought, this is not really fulfilling what I need. And like Justin did, I left lacrosse, or they might say they fired me, but I like to say I left.
You can't quit me, I quit you.
They took your keys.
I think,
yes, they did. But it was important to do that so that I could be I could be responsible for me in the way that I wanted to be responsible for me. And as Justin said, I could kind of write my ticket leaving Blue Cross as opposed to being there. And of course, the years were, it's like night and day now. And there's so many more opportunities for millennials to be able to make that kind of decision, more so than it was then. But I knew, just as you all have stated, that I had to find something that was going to make me whole and complete, and not look to somebody else to do that.
Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah, Lakeithia, before we go, what's some final thoughts that you want to share with us?
I think to piggyback off of what you just said, I don't know where that messaging comes from, but it's out there. And I think that most of us have thought that, whether it be something you possess or a status or a title, it could be a degree, it could be getting married, that was going to be the end all to you feeling complete or leveling up, and then that was going to be transformative for you. So I guess all to say that is messaging that we're all hearing, and it is a journey, a self-discovery journey to go on with God, to have an understanding that He's the only person that can fill that gap. And that's something that we just all have to pursue. So I wish I could put that on a billboard. I wish I could put it in the newspaper to really get people to see that. Because people are dissolving marriages because they thought that this was going to be the thing, or ending careers, or making life-changing decisions that are affecting, maybe it's one person, maybe you're affecting a whole family, maybe you're affecting a whole industry, because you thought that something was going to be it for you. So I wish that was something I could scream from the rooftops and everybody get it, that it's only God that can fill that void. And through your relationship with God, you'll be led into the marriage, the thing, the industry, the, whatever, fill in the blank, that is going to ultimately do, and not to get too churchy, but ultimately do work for others, do work for the kingdom. That's going to be helpful. That's going to make a difference and a change. That's something that you can only tap into when you have that God-sized void field.
Amen.
Amen. You know what? I think you got a book. Wait, as the preacher said, I felt it in my spirit.
You felt
it?
And the title is
Amen.
Mind Mentor, because when you spoke about the people that you had that you weren't physically connected to, but you they were in your mind mentors. You like it, run with that, girl, and retire Justin too.
Okay, right. Retire everybody. Everybody get checks.
And that's Joanne and me too.
You heard it here first.
I'm not afraid of work.
You.
What I gotta
do? Joanne, you got anything to add?
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Oh, no, I just appreciate you, Lakeithia, for joining us and sharing with us, sharing with our millennial women, just a tidbit of just like your life, and being open and honest about your life. And I am so proud of you. And like you said, it was a journey for you. You didn't do the typical, what they say, 4 or 5 years, but because you had a goal that was here and you all worked together, you're completing that goal.
Yes,
that's
and
awesome.
It's a good thing.
That's awesome.
I try to tell, if you got to take one class a semester, the young ladies that I work with a lot of times, if you got to do one, but move forward as long as you're moving forward. So I appreciate you sharing your story. That Definitely. It took you're saying this has been 13 years?
13 years,
13 years, and look where you are now, and you are about to walk that stage. I am proud of you. Keep moving.
You.
I'm proud of both of you all.
Definitely.
Justin, man. Sometimes you get excited about people who come into your life that and I never thought. I'm excited. I am. This is awesome. I think God put us together for a reason.
Definitely.
For sure. I believe that.
Such a time.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for sharing your wife with us today.
I know. This has been a sheer delight.
Keep it moving.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you, honey, for putting in the word or whatever needs to be done so that I could be featured here today. This really, to me, feels like a full circle moment in just being open to the public in general. So thank you guys. I really enjoyed my time here.
You're welcome.
In closing?
Yeah. Two things. First thing is, honey, she didn't mention this, but she feels led to connect with mothers, and just create community. So I just want you to give out your email or Instagram or something where that if there's young ladies that say, hey, well, you have my mentors, but I want you to be my mentor. I want to connect with you. I want to connect with the things that you're doing. I want you to be able to do that. So could you give, I don't know what you want to give, but you give that information real quick.
Yes. So Facebook and Gmail are both my first and last name. So my email is lakeithia.hearn. And my Facebook is Lakeithia Hearn. So my name is spelled there, but again, it's Lakeithia Hearn. And send me an email. We can connect. I'm in the grassroots phase of kind of configuring how to have a community in this state of COVID and winter and people with young kids. But yes, I do feel compelled to provide community, provide village, be the change that I feel I need as far as sisterhood, and also assist in providing village for other women in need. So reach out to me, send me a DM or an email, and I'd be happy to connect with you guys.
All right, and finally, actually today at Conqueror's Church is a church that I co-pastor along with Sam Moore. The message today was on circumstantial happiness, breaking the chain of circumstantial happiness. Literally, that was the message today. So I want to just tell everybody, if that's something that you're dealing with, something that you're struggling with, one of the points he made is that happiness is circumstantial. You up and you down. But joy is something that only comes from above, and we got to learn how to have joy, so that in good times we can be happy, in bad times we can be happy, and no matter the season, no matter what we're experiencing, no matter what life is brings, but we got to have a joy that comes, that supersedes bad news, that supersedes diagnosis, that supersedes our bosses, that supersedes the problems and issues that we have. But that joy only comes from God. So you can go to conquerorschurch.org, and you can see the sermon there, or YouTube. If you type in Conquerors Church on YouTube, today's message is available, and also on Facebook. It blessed me. It blessed me. So I know it'll bless you.
That's great. Well, everyone, this was a great show. And once again, thank you, Lakeithia Hurd, for being our special guest. And that's lakeithia.hurd@gmail.com, correct?
Yes.
Well,
thank
everybody.
You. It's my pleasure.
All right. You all have a great day. And to our listening and viewing audience, we appreciate. Make sure that you share and like this video, because it's somebody that can really learn a lot from our special guest, Lakeithia Hurd, today. She gave excellent information, and she just shared intimately and transparent with that information. And once again, we appreciate you. Everybody have a great day, a great evening, and don't eat too much. Preach to yourself, Rufus.
Right.
Have a great one, everybody.
All right, love you.
All right.